Ow. Right. Blah. Hey, welcome to Review Roundup for the month of June. This is going to be part one because I'm actually splitting Review Roundup into two parts this month, so you'll have two waves of reviews. Basically, I'm just reviewing a bunch of movies that I saw in the month of June. This is for the first half of the month. Men in Black International, Dark Phoenix, Ma, Rocketman, things like that. And yes, Ma and Rocketman came out on May 31st, but I'm counting them in June because it's basically June. I mean, it's not June, but it's so close to the edge that you might as well call it June. So, if you want to see a particular review, you can check the description. I'll have the times below for when the different reviews start. So go there. And yeah, I hope you enjoy my thoughts and opinions on these June theatrical releases.
Excuse me, can you buy some booze for my friends and I?
Not interested. Please? Hell.
Ooh, there's my girl.
This never happened, okay?
Thanks again for doing this, ma'am.
You guys want to party like rock stars?
So Ma was a movie that I was expecting to be a lot more fun. I was honestly expecting it to be a lot like Don't Breathe. As the weeks have gone by since I've seen the movie, I'm starting to remember less and less about it. So I guess that just means it's kind of a forgettable movie. It's more just like a novelty to see Octavia Spencer playing this kind of like campy horror villain, because everything in this movie is very like over the top and just unrealistic, and everything is a coincidence. And to be honest with you, it's not very fun to watch. It's not particularly funny. None of the characters are really that easy to grasp onto. No one's really that likable. It's not really anything special at all. It's not scary. The trailer, I hear, reveals almost everything that the movie has to offer. I don't watch trailers, so I didn't see it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really imagine myself ever watching this again, and I wouldn't really recommend that you watch it because it's...
It was all there, I could see all the notes, and I just had to get it out.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside.
So Rocketman, I just want to start this off by saying two things. One, I didn't see Bohemian Rhapsody, so I don't have that movie to compare this to, which might be kind of a good thing, a different perspective. Two, I'm not super familiar with Elton John's music or his personal life, so going into this movie, I wouldn't say that I was really excited. I was mostly looking forward to seeing Taron Egerton's performance, which, like everyone has been saying, it was pretty fantastic. He looked and sounded just like Elton John. It was definitely a very devoted and dedicated performance, and I didn't expect anything less from him. Jamie Bell in this movie plays his writer and best friend, essentially, and I thought he was pretty great too. He's a very sincere person in general, so I liked that. It was nice to see Rob Stark in something that wasn't Game of Thrones or that boring Cinderella remake that came out a few years ago. And yeah, I'm just kind of, I don't want to say torn on this movie, but I don't feel very strongly about it either way. I don't think it's bad, and I don't think it's anything super amazing. I thought it was just good. I enjoyed watching it. Looking back, some of it is a little bit boring, and some parts of the narrative do feel a little bit glazed over and rushed if you don't know enough about Elton John's backstory. I had a conversation with some friends of mine after we watched this movie, and that's a point that they brought up, and I think it's a good point that they brought up. I think the drama with his father was one of the stronger aspects of the movie's narrative and storytelling. I thought that was really well done, but I didn't think that the conflict with his mother, it obviously happened because this is a biopic, and it's, you know, it's Elton's life, but I feel like the film didn't do a good job of making it clear that his mother wasn't going to be very supportive of his life choices. So when that happened, and just the way she responded to that, it felt super forced in my opinion. I do enjoy their attempt at bringing the narrative into musical form every now and then and breaking out into these weird scenes where the whole, you know, crowd is getting together and dancing and singing. But at the same time, I feel like the story of this movie wasn't very well plotted out. A little too rushed, and then sometimes they spent a little too much time dwelling on certain things. So that's my take on Rocketman. I thought it was good, but nothing super spectacular, which it's too bad it couldn't have been.
Look at me. Focus on my voice. I'm not giving up on you, Jean.
She was my friend.
You're my family, Jean. No matter what.
Stop.
Dark Phoenix got completely shit on by critics and audiences alike, and honestly, I don't exactly see why. I feel like people are saying this is just one of the worst X-Men movies. It's one of the worst superhero movies to be released, to be made, to be written, to be whatever, and honestly, there have been so many shittier superhero movies that have come out, especially from this studio, that this movie, comparatively to those, is better. To me, it just seemed like another X-Men adventure, a harmless one, it may be, and it definitely didn't pack much of an impact for being the last in the series, I guess, is what it is. It truly isn't a very good conclusion, but as a movie itself, it has a coherent plot. The characters feel like the characters, like they're written the way they normally would. And it's not a boring movie. I've heard some people say it's boring and that there's no action in it, but I think that that is honestly kind of a false statement. There's a lot more action at the end for sure, but there are definitely tense moments throughout the movie. What I will say is that the build up to Jean Grey being the Phoenix or whatever it is, having her in just Apocalypse and then going to this movie, it felt like we weren't very attached to her character, at least her portrayal of Jean Grey yet. So it didn't feel like a very big deal when she was going through things because I felt like I didn't know her. The movie's main character just hasn't been developed enough thus far, making her harder to care about. But I felt that the core first class characters, were really great. It felt like they were still the same characters that had a lot of screen time, and I thought a lot of their dialogue was good. Yeah, I think that this is just like a really well-paced, exciting addition to the X-Men movies. It just doesn't really work as well as a conclusion, and Jessica Chastain's villain was also pretty weak. It didn't need to be there. But overall, this movie, I feel like people are making it sound like it's terrible. It's not that bad. It really isn't. Truth is, I liked it. I like when the X-Men go on a mission into space, the government calls upon them and they have to do their thing. It's the first time we've really seen the X-Men in a long time act like that on the big screen. So that's my opinion. Moving on.
Excuse me, we're closed.
Hey, I just want to take a quick moment to talk about Jim Jarmusch's new film, The Dead Don't Die. I saw it a couple of nights ago now, and I've had time to process my thoughts on it. I was really looking forward to this one because it is a Jim Jarmusch film, and because it has a stellar cast, and that's really the best thing about this movie. I don't think that this movie has the same impact as a lot of previous Jim Jarmusch films have had, in my opinion, but I think that this movie's lack of narrative, as people have been saying, isn't really something to, I guess, take points off of it for. I think that the performances and the characters and just the conversations they have are what's supposed to carry this movie, and I think for the most part they're pretty engaging. There are some conversations and some scenes in this movie that really seem to just drag its feet, and you kind of wish it would just move on. It's kind of the point of the movie, is to create this really long-standing awkward humor where things don't really go anywhere. That's kind of the style of this movie, and for the most part I enjoyed that about it, but sometimes it did get a little bit restless. And also I would just say that it really tries to push this theme of consumerism and materialism. I mean, it literally, Tom Waits' character is literally narrating about these themes, and I think that it was a little too pushy. They could have gotten that across in a better way. It was pretty ham-fisted, but other than that, I thought this was an enjoyable movie that had, just like I said, a great cast, lots of funny moments, lots of gore, which I wasn't exactly expecting. And yeah, if you're a fan of Jim Jarmusch's previous work, you'll probably find something to like about this movie. It's a lot different from any of the films of his that I've seen, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I don't want to say it was bad, but it was not good. It really wasn't. And the thing is, I won't say that I was really looking forward to this movie, but I was expecting it to be good. It's directed by F. Gary Gray, who directed Friday, and that movie's hilarious, so obviously he can handle comedy. He's also directed one of the Fast and Furious movies. I don't really watch those movies, but obviously he can do action. And it's starring Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth, the stars of Thor Ragnarok, which is probably my favorite MCU movie. So I was really excited for this, and I grew up watching Men in Black. I don't think that they're fantastic, but they definitely hold a certain spot in my being, because I think the first Men in Black Black movie was the first DVD that my family ever bought when we got a DVD player. So that's something, that's some nostalgia value. So I expected this movie to be pretty good, but it just is so devoid of anything that makes Men in Black interesting. I'll say that the most likable part of this movie was definitely Tessa Thompson's charisma and her energy. Like, it felt like she was bringing her A game. It seems like she was really excited to be in this role, in this franchise. You could definitely tell that she was giving it her all for this, but unfortunately, this movie's story is so just boring. I wasn't bored by the movie itself. Like, I was always wondering, I'm like, is it gonna get better? Am I gonna start to like it more? But the whole time, I was just like, ugh, it kept disappointing me, it kept letting me down. The story of this movie just feels so insignificant, and it doesn't even do much with the two characters. Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson's agents H and M, I believe. You would expect the story to take them into a place where they have to depend on each other and build their relationship and kind of create the same kind of partnership that J and K had in the original trilogy. Because honestly, one of the strongest parts of the older Men in Black movies is Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith and their chemistry and the way that their characters interact and support each other. But this movie, the writing doesn't give them the opportunity to do that. Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth definitely have charisma together because they've been on screen together in a big blockbuster before. But these characters are so uninteresting that they don't have anything to work with, it seems. That's the worst thing about this movie, is the story and the writing for these characters, because they are hardly characters, in all honesty. Also, it's really over-reliant on CGI, and the action scenes are pretty bland as well. This whole movie just feels like a shell of Men in Black. It really doesn't feel like a Men in Black movie. It feels more like a sci-fi action movie from the 10s. Is that what we call this decade? I don't even know what we call this decade. It reminded me a lot of a movie like R.I.P.D. That's what this movie is like. It felt more like R.I.P.D. than it did Men in Black. Also, the music, it's done again by Danny Elfman, and to me, they used the music so often, it felt like I was watching a cartoon or like a sitcom or something half the time. To me, they just used it in places that weren't necessary and gave the movie like cutesy, fun little tones way too often. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit. Honestly, I didn't want to believe what people were saying about this movie. I wanted it to be good. I wanted to enjoy it. I thought, how could they go wrong? But it's the writing. The writers of this movie didn't bring. And also, by the end of the movie, we were trying to figure out what the motivation of the villain was and what the big conspiracy was. It didn't make sense. The ending was really rushed. It's too bad that they weren't able to give this series a fresh reboot. It felt very sloppy and just insignificant, and it didn't compare to some of the heart that the original Men in Black movies had. But what are you gonna do? Yeah, I don't know, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think. And one more thing, because I just thought of it. On the poster for this movie, they put Frank the Pug and the Worm guys on it. Like they're gonna be in action, they have weapons on them. They're not in the movie. None of the main characters in this movie have any dialogue with them. They literally see them in passing. It's like an Easter egg that they're in the movie. They're just kind of there to nod at the older movies, at the originals. I guess I understand why they would market the movie that way and put them on the poster, but it's a blatant lie. It's not true, and they're not in the movie. So if you were looking forward to Frank, the talking dog, you're gonna be disappointed because he's not in the movie, and the worms aren't in it either. I think the worms, you literally see them walk out of a train, and that's all. They walk out of a train talking to each other, you don't even hear what they say, and that's it. So they put them right on the cover, right on the poster of the movie, but they're not really in it. So they're definitely trying to just sell the nostalgia of the other movies with this one. Way to go, Sony. By the way, I'm not really doing anything right now. I'm just watching Venom for the first time on Stars. Oh, well, kind of watching. I've never seen it before, but it's kind of funny. I don't know, I kind of like it. Tom Hardy's pretty entertaining to watch in it. I don't know, I might actually want to watch the movie and sit down and watch it someday, but yeah, Sony, woo! It's a lie, it's all a lie, so